What is up, y'all? Dan back at you with another video. Today's video is one that I've been working on over the last couple of days to find a really fun and really good build for Warlock for Strand, and it is the BroodWeaver of Another World build that I've been running. I know people have been asking about it, and I wanted to get something that wasn't as common as well. I know everyone's doing the whole gloves build with osteo, and while that's a cool one, I wanted to give it a different look for those who don't want to just be the same as everyone else. And this one was really fun. This one allows you to be a little bit more aggressive if you play it right. I know this one might have a little bit more of a requirement on tools, but if you have them, I think you'll have a lot of fun. I did the legendary campaign with it just to test it out, since I think the legendary campaign has a decent difficulty balancing instead of like lost sectors and all that stuff. And it will also be pretty decent for Grandmasters, since it has champion capabilities and also really high end burst damage from the super. So hopefully the guide walks you through it. If you have any questions about anything, feel free to let me know in the comments. If you have any suggestions to changing things up that doesn't include the osteo necrotic grips build, let me know. Thank you so much for watching this video. All right, let's walk you through the Strand Warlock build that we have been using. This one is a little bit different than probably the one you've been seeing all over the place. All right, so the goal for this build is to have threadlings and suspend up as often as we can, and also having unravel and all right, so the goal for this build for the most part was to find a way for me to use my abilities and our weapons to create suspend as often as possible and create threadlings or hatchlings as often as possible, so we can have very high crowd control while also generating a lot of orbs and super, so we can get our needle storm, which is really good for big boss damage and big ad clear damage. So we're going to walk over the mod customization. There's a few that are must-haves, there's a few that are I like to run that you can swap out. So we're going to start with what I chose for our exotic Eye of Another World, where it marks priority targets and buffs ability regen. The reason we use this isn't for the marked priority targets, but for the ability regeneration. We did a lot of testing, and we kind of decided on between Nezarec Sins, Verity's Brow, and Eye of Another World, and it seemed that Eye of Another World was the best choice because of it not requiring, unlike Nezarec Sin, for us to only benefit from using void weapons. Even though a lot of what I'm using is void because of volatile, you can go that route. However, if for some reason I wanted to use, forbearance, or some of the other GLs like the new arc one with volt shot, or just fusion rifles or something that just wasn't void, we wanted to make sure that we still had the ability regen. If I'm using galley, any of that stuff, I wanted to make sure I was having as much ability regen as possible. So Eye of Another World was just the best choice for high uptime on abilities, and if you pair with the mods that we paired it with, you're going to see a lot of ability regen. That being said, as you can tell, we're only running tier 6 discipline and tier 8 recovery. This is going to help that go up even higher, and with the mods that we're using, it's going to be even better. So just trust me. If for some reason you only plan on using void this season, then go with Nezarec Sin, but I wanted this to be a staple build with Strand, and I think this is a really solid build, especially for the way I play. The mods you're going to be looking at is just things to get the recovery as high as possible, because the most important thing is having our rift up as often as possible. Every time we pop the rift, we're gonna get those threadlings, those hatchlings, and they're gonna go out and seek and go all around. We want to have that up as often as possible. Also, when we're gonna pair it with our class item, it's gonna give us more ability regeneration to our grenades, so we keep the loop going of using our class ability generates melee and grenade energy. Using those things generates our class ability. What I use is Void and Strand Siphon. Again, we're taking advantage of volatile, so this is a no-brainer. And then heavy ammo finder. This is the freebie. If you're not having an issue with heavy, you can swap that out. For the class item, we are running more resilience because we want to have that resilience high as possible as well. I like tier 9 resilience just to have as much resistance as possible. Impact induction, causing damage with a melee attack reduces our cooldown. So when we do those little melee things, it's just going to keep our cooldown on our grenade even higher. The next thing is bolstering detonation, grants class ability energy when you cause damage with a grenade. This one's a little bit weird with the shackle grenade. You have to kill an enemy with the shackle, not with the suspend. But when it does actually proc from the explosions, it does give you a decent amount of energy back. So figured it was the best thing to put on. Wasn't a lot of choices. We wanted to decide on whether or not to focus on the grenade or the melee. Grenade is a lot easier to constantly have, and I think with the ability regeneration, melees are perfectly fine. So grenades are way more important, so we went for that. If you prefer the melee, go with the other one. Grenade kickstart. We're gonna always have armor charges, so whenever we toss our grenade, we're gonna get a chunk of our grenade back so we can get closer to another grenade. Very important. The next thing we're gonna go for is a recovery mod, just to get our tiers up. These right here are totally up to you. If you have better armor and you don't need to put it all into resilience, you can put it into recovery. If you don't have a lot of recovery, you can put it into resilience, or if you got both, you can put it into discipline. Any of those works. I like sniper resistance just to get those little folks that are far away from me out, but you can also put on concussive dampener. And we're also running font of endurance. I really like font of endurance because every time I pick up an armor charge, I get a chunk of resistance. I think it's like plus 30 back. So it just lets me just tank a little bit more. You can also put on something else, but this is a freebie slot. I just prefer to have something for damage resistance. The next thing is a discipline mod just to get me to that tier 6. I think the minimum you should have with this is tier 6. Any less and you're going to start noticing that there are times when you really could use that grenade and you're just a little bit of ways. So tier 6 with I Have Another Word helps out a lot. As always, I like to run 1 recuperation and 1 absolution. Recuperation, every time we pick up an orb, we get a chunk of our health back instantly every single time we pick up an orb. And then every time we pick up an orb, we also get a chunk of our abilities, all of them back every single time. So the more we make orbs, the more we can pick up and heal, and the more we can get our abilities back on top of I Have Another World, which is really, really good. This is our freebie slide as well, Void Weapon Surge. This is going to be based off of what you're doing. If you're using what I like to use, which is a lot of Void, take advantage of Volatile. This is really good. You can also swap it out for Arc, Solar, and Void, just whatever weapons you're planning on prioritizing. For our class item, we're going to just have Resilience, that Artifice free recovery mod. We might as well put that there. And Double Bomber. For this, I like Double Bomber because every time we pop our Rift, we get about 30% of our grenade back no matter what. So as you can tell, we're trying to get as much priority to our Rift and to our grenade, so we want to keep that going as often as possible. I think this is really, really good. And of course, elemental time dilation, which gives our armor charge just a longer duration. It takes it from 10 to about 13 seconds. That goes for our weapon surge charge, that goes for our font of endurance, and that goes for pretty much anything that's going to be taking advantage of armor charges. Really, really nice. With this, I like to run shadow orbs every time I break a shield. We're going to make an orb instantly. Defiant Armory. This is just for our noble D's, our Strand weapon. Of course, Volatile Flow. Every time we pick up an orb, we get volatile rounds to our Void weapons. And then I like to do this if I'm playing in content that has champions with other teammates. Counterweave, every time we stun a champion, I get a portion of my least charged Strand ability back. Just helps all of your abilities get back to where they need to be faster. And then I like this only for like champion situations, just You pop your Needle Storm. It just gives everybody else a damage buff as long as they are not running Strand as well. For the weapons, this is what I like to run. I like having a Strand weapon because it helps a whole lot for making more hatchlings and just taking advantage of the spreading of Strand. I'm running Perpetualist with Envious Assassin and Hatchling. What this does is with Envious Assassin, based off the amount of kills you get from other weapons, when you pull this weapon out, you get an overflowing of the magazine. And then Hatchling just gives you those little threadlings on kills every once in a while, which is nice because it just gives you more hatchlings to go out and kill enemies. This is the bread and butter of the build. For me, this is Dead Messenger with the Catalyst. This covers all three shields, so Void, Arc, and Solar. No matter what, you have the situation taken care of if you have shields, because remember, every time we break a shield, we're gonna gain those orbs. So if you're in an encounter with a lot of Void, you can use the Void version. If you're in an encounter with a lot of Arc, use the Arc version. If you're in an encounter with a lot of Solar, use the Solar version. You'll always get those orbs. And also with Turnabout, which is really nice, you get an overshield. So we can also have an overshield. And the more shields, the more overshields, the more orbs, you see where we're going. If for some reason you don't have Dead Messenger with the Catalyst, you can use another GL. You can always use a Forbearance for Arc. The new Void Harsh Language has some really good roles with Repulsor Brace. For Void, you can do that. And then I don't know if we have a solo one in the game right now, but that's why I personally went with Dead Messenger. And this is another thing that I like to go for because, again, we're focusing on ability regeneration. I went with the Corrective Measure with Demolitionist and Adrenaline Junkie. Volatile rounds off of Void, also Demolitionist, getting those kills will, one, spread the Strand buff that you have, and will give you ability regeneration back, and it's so good. I know this might be difficult to get now, but take the machine gun, take something with those perks. You can also use the new Nimbus Neomuna machine gun, the Strand one. That one also is really good. I don't have a good combination roll of it, but it does come with Demolitionist, and it also comes with Hatchling. I think they're in the same slot though. But it also comes with Envious Assassin. So if you don't have a good Void machine gun, you can also use a Strand machine gun because we want to prioritize Strand and Void for this build. Looking over the BroodWeaver abilities, there's not too much we can change. I like to use Shackle Grenade. You toss that grenade and it suspends everything instantly, and after you kill them, it creates a singular tangle. It also stuns unstoppable champions, which is really nice. This way you have something for Void, overflowing everything, and you can stun champions, unstoppables, which is probably the most annoying ones now since everything else can just be free. But shackle grenades are really nice for that. Also, when you consume it, you get what is Weaver's Trance, which is absolutely insane. When you get kills while you have Weaver's Trance, it causes a suspending detonation that anywhere any enemy is in that vicinity, they get suspended. And what's really insane is with Dead Messenger, once you consume that grenade, you shoot that wave frame out. If you have Volatile explodes everything. Anything not dead by Volatile gets suspended, and then so on and so forth. And that's a really fun playstyle. You just blow up everything with Volatile. Anything not dead gets suspended, rinse and repeat. The fragments that I like to use, there's one freebie. I'll walk you through that in a second. Threat of Mind is a must. Defeating suspended targets grants class ability energy. The more enemies that are suspended, when we damage them, it just gives us our rift back faster. Remember, we're always trying to focus on ability regeneration across the board. The next thing is damaging, just dealing damage generates grenade energy. So when we suspend those targets and we defeat them, we get class ability energy, right? Before we defeat them, when we're damaging them, we get the grenade energy. And that's just fantastic. This works no matter what. But as you can see, we're focusing on stuff that's going to just give us ability energy across the board. The next one is Threadlings travel further and deal additional damage. This one was one that I was up in the air about, but I think this is a must because we're popping so many rifts anyway. We want to let the Threadlings be as strong as possible. We thought about using Swarmer, which is really good for Threadlings. However, our ability regen across the board is way lower. So using this gets us closer to what you see with the Swarmer exotic boots, but you still can have all your abilities up way higher using Thread of Evolution and taking advantage of high recovery for a lot of risks. Remember, anything that you don't kill, the Threadlings come back and perch on you. So the next time you pop a rift, if 1 or 2 are perched to you, when you pop that rift and 3 come out, 5 come out. And again, the ones that don't die come back to you. So you keep that gameplay loop going of just popping rifts, Threadlings kill stuff, come back, and that's additional enemies you can kill while you're killing everything else with your other weapons. The last thing is up in the air. This is the one you can swap out. What I like to do is a couple of them. Sometimes I like to run finishers, final blows, create Threadlings just to have more Threadlings. But for most in-game, I would suggest picking up Thread of Warding. Or picking up an overpower grants you Woven Mail. Woven Mail is going to give you 50% damage resistance for about 25 seconds. And that's every time you pick up an overpower. Even though it lowers your resistance or your resilience by 10 points, doesn't matter. You're getting a whole lot of resistance at all times, way higher than even tier 10. For most in-game content or like even the legendary campaign, this is what you want to go for. If for some reason you're kind of okay, you're feeling fine, you don't really need it, I would put Thread of Continuity on. All this does is it just makes everything suspended way longer. I believe without this, they are suspended for about 6 seconds. With this, they are suspended for about 11 seconds. So it's up to you. If you're not having much issue in content and you don't really feel like you need Woven Mail, this is the way to go. You just can keep everything suspended for such a long time, no matter what. And everything is just going to constantly be taking damage from the suspend bonuses for ability regeneration and your grenade generation. So by the time they even think about getting out of your suspend, you're already chucking another one at them. But again, if you're needing some more resistance, then go with the Woven Mail buff. That's the entire build. I wanted to walk you through every little bit and why I did what I did with the build. I enjoyed a lot. Hopefully you enjoy as well. I'll leave a dim link in the description for folks. I know people asked about it from the Titan build, so I got that there for you. So thanks so much for watching this video, and until the next one, I'll see you very soon.